You have advice to him on how he should assuage those concerns in the public about his age?
They're not happy. So how do you keep getting that message out?
2 drinks a week.
What do you think of that?
The USDA is coming up with new alcohol guidelines. Joe Biden in hot water as his approval rating dips even further. The Trump mugshot. How much money did they actually raise? And the DOJ sues SpaceX. All that and more coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Jobob. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
Here we go.
Might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is an ancient demon. Their name is Jobob.
Live from the dingy bunker that is completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in on today. It is Monday, August 28th, the year of our Lord, 2023. A lot of stuff to catch you up on. First things first, gotta talk about not being here the last 2 days. This is an interesting thing, but we'll get to that. DOJ is suing SpaceX, like I mentioned. And how much money did the Trump campaign raise off of the mugshot? We'll get to that first because I feel like that's probably the most notable story at the moment. When it was said that the Trump indictment in Georgia was going to garner a mugshot, something that lefties have been clamoring for the last, 7 years? Since 2015? 8 years almost? It finally happened. On Thursday, late Thursday evening, East Coast time, Donald Trump turned himself into the Fulton County prison and was mugshotted, which is stupid, but I don't know. I'm of two minds of this. There's one thought of like, yeah, treat everybody the same, but also, what is a mugshot for? Mugshot is used to identify a person who's been arrested, trying to get them back for bail. Nobody needs a new photo of Donald Trump to identify him. So, it is what it is. But Donald Trump was mugshotted. Photo came out Thursday night. Friday, everyone's talking about it. And I think the thing that was the most interesting about this is that both sides of the political parties, but also just everybody everywhere, no matter who you were, you either loved it or you loved it. Not necessarily for the same reasons, obviously, but the lefty side of the aisle was like, yes, finally we captured him. We got a photo of Donald Trump in a mugshot. And the right was like, yeah, look at this. This is proof of how ridiculous all things have gotten. And they're going to slap it on a bunch of t-shirts. Both sides wanted t-shirts of the Donald Trump mugshot, which was crazy. I don't think that's ever happened before. But I think a week ago, when that first came out, which is what I was saying originally, when it first came out that Donald Trump was going to be mugshotted, I said he's going to raise, I think I said $100 million in a week. We're still not there yet. We still can get there to make my prediction accurate. I don't think it'll actually get to $100 million a week. I think that was probably an overzealous gamble on my part. But they did raise a ton of money over the weekend. This is from Axios. Former President Trump's 2024 campaign had its best day of fundraising yet after the release of his mugshot from Fulton County, aides tell Axios. The iconic image, which is so fascinating because that's the same county office, I believe, that has Martin Luther King Jr. mugshots. I was also looking for my mugshot over the weekend. Wasn't able to find it, but I don't know. Maybe I'll look harder. Anyways, bottom line is, the whole idea of having a mugshot to the left being like, we got him, I think is far less, we got him as they would have thought. His campaign pulled in $4.18 million on Friday, an official told Axios. Fundraising totaled $7 million in 48 hours since Thursday's release. Politico was the first to report those numbers. The campaign raised nearly $20 million in the last 3 weeks. Trump previously scored big fundraising wins from bad legal news. The campaign reported a $5 million haul in 48 hours after his first indictment, Axios reported. Obviously, Trump has pleaded not guilty, yada, 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 yada. But the bottom line is Trump had a big fundraising day, $7.1 million in the first 48 hours. In the next week, Now, that's juxtaposed to $20 million in 3 weeks. So, yeah, they're on track to do a lot of fundraising, selling T-shirts. And also, to their credit, to the campaign's credit, they were on top of it. To be honest with you, I was also on top of it, trying to make sure that I had T-shirts ready to go. Not the actual Mugshot T-shirt, and not pretending like I'm the campaign, but edited iterations of, I think I had Trump as an album cover, this photo being like blacked out eyes with a parental advisory sticker on it. But everybody was trying to sell T-shirts. But yeah, the Trump campaign cleaned house. Again, $7 million. They said $4 million on Friday alone, which is huge for a Friday. Yeah, big time fundraising from the Trump campaign in his mugshot, Fulton County. Now, I think that kind of backfired with a bunch of your lefty people thinking that this was going to be just such a huge win for them. And again, I don't know that I've ever seen a situation where both sides want a T-shirt of the same photo. Let's see. Anything else about that particular? Nah, there's not really enough to get into regarding the actual trials. I think he's set to be arraigned in September, and that particular trial is going to be ridiculous, considering all the things that they have to prove, which is pretty much the same exact case as the Jack Smith indictments for January 6th. Not really, I don't know, in my mind, not really even a contest for anybody who understands how elections work. I saw a podcast with Vivek and Bill Maher, and Bill Maher was like saying, the phone call should have indicted him alone. The phone call where he said, "Find me votes." Dude, okay. Again, I'm not really even trying to take a partisan side covering for the guy, but as a person who's worked in politics for the last 10 years, like literally on the campaign side, find me the votes is not, that is, I hope we can literally find votes, considering how voting is done, find votes in a place that isn't counted yet. I don't know, in one particular county, in one particular municipality, inside a county, inside a state, saying "find me the votes" is not saying, "Hey, make up the votes." Those are different things. "Find me the votes" is pretty typical terminology in the campaign world. And also, I think it was Jonathan Turley who was pointing this out last week when the indictments dropped again for the January 6th stuff and the election stuff in particular. The United States as a whole has to fervently protect the right of any person participating in an election to protest the results to the highest extent. You have to be so open and transparent with your elections that you need to allow anybody who protests the results to take that to the legal edge of fighting whether or not the election results are legitimate. And that, of course, has been the case for the lefty side of the aisle, Democrats as a whole, for, I don't know, the entirety of elections, more specifically and more recently. Remember Al Gore against George Bush, took it all the way to the Supreme Court. Who else? Hillary Clinton, obviously in 2016, upset she didn't win. Yeah, there's a lot of history with Democrats protesting elections, but when a Republican does it, all of a sudden it's treason. Oh no! When of course you have to protect the right of people running for office to question legitimacy to the nth degree. So there is that. Moving on from the presidency stuff, I think is kind of interesting going here, especially with the election coming up. Now, I don't think Joe Biden's actually running. I think there's insiders saying that he is probably going to announce next month that he's not going to run, which gives Democrats as much time as they want in order to find a replacement, which Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris will be have their dukes out fighting each other in the streets of California, probably, in order to get that nomination. but I don't think he's going to run. He spent the last, 23, out of the last 28 days, he spent 23 of them on vacation at various beaches. He's been in Tahoe. He took one day off of his vacation to go to Hawaii, which that was a debacle there. But the bottom line is, I don't think Joe Biden is running. Now, the interesting component for the 2024 election is that in a lot of ways, I've heard this stated, and it seems to make a lot of sense. Trump and Biden both need each other to run because they're the only two people that could beat each other. In other words, Trump would have a really tough time against probably really a lot of the other candidates on the Democrat side, except Joe Biden. I think he thinks, and probably accurately, he can crush Joe Biden in a general election. Joe Biden, on the other hand, looks at the Republican field and thinks, the only person I actually might have a chance at beating is Donald Trump. And literally any of the other people in the contest on the GOP side would wipe the floor with Joe Biden. So in a funny, kind of ironic twist of fate, I think both candidates are hoping the other one runs because they, in their mind, think that they're the only ones that can beat that particular person. Or they're the only ones that can lose to them. I know that got a little bit confusing. But anyways, I want to get to some polling stuff here because I thought this is interesting. They're coming out over the weekend. This is from, was this on MSNBC? I forget. Watch this. I thought this was funny. This is an MSNBC person talking to the Biden campaign. And the verbiage they use is super funny, and I like to comment on it after. Watch this.
Do you approve or disapprove of the way Joe Biden is handling the following issues? The economy. Approve 37%, disapprove 61%. If people are saying that in polls, they're not happy. So how do you keep getting that message out?
Well, we have to keep telling them about what we're doing. But I think that how you ask the question you ask, you're going to get very different answers.
All right. Sorry. ABC This Week. Not MSNBC. I thought that was hilarious. Now, they're looking at the polling saying, look, an overwhelming majority of people disapprove, and very few people approve of the way that Joe Biden is handling the economy. How do you get the word out to voters? In other words, what she asked is, how do you lie to voters more effectively? Because objectively speaking, the economy is not great. Now, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, for some reason, keep putting out that statistic of, look at how many jobs Joe Biden has created. Even Gavin Newsom on Sean Hannity's show said, yeah, that's not true. Those are COVID numbers, so you can't really measure based on that. But they keep putting out those numbers. And so the question from ABC This Week to the Biden campaign official, I think he's the co-chair of the campaign, said, how can you get Americans to understand that you're actually doing a good job? In other words, how do you more effectively lie to the American people to get them to believe that everything is actually great? I'm still shocked every time I go into a grocery store and think, holy cow, this costs this now? I would imagine if I were, checking out is always more of a shock than I'd think. And I can't imagine that is not dissimilar. Pretty much everybody in America also thinks that, is what I'm trying to say. Not dissimilar that other people feel that too. But yeah, the end of the day, I think it's fascinating. The question ultimately from the TV host was, how are you going to lie more effectively and get people to believe the lie that the economy is actually great and wonderful under Joe Biden? Bernie Sanders also went on Meet the Press this week, and what I think is kind of interesting is I think the public has moved on from Joe Biden's age being the most talked about thing to actually doing the job and the handling of various things, which I think is interesting in and of itself. But nevertheless, Chuck Todd, who is detached from the American pulse, asked Bernie Sanders how he feels about Joe Biden's age, which I thought was kind of another interesting little quip from this weekend. Watch this.
One way that you make it clear that age isn't a factor with you is you're pretty energetic. We see you travel the country. You show up you do interviews. It is clearly an issue for many voters when it comes to President Biden. He's a year younger than you. Do you have advice to him on how he should assuage those concerns in the public about his age?
Look, When people look at a candidate, whether it's Joe Biden or Trump or Bernie Sanders, anybody else, they have to evaluate a whole lot of factors. I met with the president, 5 or 6 weeks ago. We had a great discussion. He seemed fine to me.
He seemed fine to me. All right, Uncle Bernie, thanks for that. We'll go ahead and take your word for it. I thought this was funny in the comment section. Shoot, where did it go? Oh, dang it, I got to scroll up quite a bit. Lisa says, who are these 37%? That is the question that I always want to know. 37% of America, according to this poll done by Fox News, aired on ABC, said, yeah, I think everything's fine. Handling the economy, just dandy. Everything is great. Grocery prices are the skyrocketing grocery prices, the skyrocketing energy prices, the manufacturers that are crippling to the will of the president's ambitious, quote unquote, green energy plans. All of that is just totally dandy. Who are you 37%? And where is the line for you? So Lisa, thanks for that, pointing that out. That's that. Actually, let's go back to this. More Joe Biden before we get to SpaceX and the USDA's alcohol approval stuff. But the spin room is in full effect. Ro Khanna, who I think is an interesting character in Congress. He's clearly a smart dude, kind of gets caught up in the insider trading conversation quite a bit, but also works across the aisle when he has to or wants to for things that I think the American people actually think. But then other times he goes on MSNBC and spouts nonsense. And he knows that it's nonsense, which is really disappointing, Congressman Rowe. I want you to watch this from MSNBC regarding Joe Biden and the Hunter Biden money laundering crime family scheme. The spin room, again, in full effect. This is who, again, I think in a lot of ways is one of the more reasonable, smart congresspeople that I disagree with a lot, but seems to have a rational head on his shoulders, doing the exact opposite to try to avert my belief that he is a sane person. Watch this.
The American people know the facts. Joe Biden, there's not a single shred of evidence that a single payment went to President Biden. And Donald Trump's post reveals everything. It's total politics. It's because he was impeached twice and he's running in 2024. They want to try to bloody up the president for 2024. This is all politics and has nothing to do either with the law or helping the American public.
Yeah, the problem with that is that that's just entirely inaccurate. It's all politics and just no, it's the law. It's legality. Hunter Biden and his minions crafted a plot with the DOJ to get a sweetheart deal, the same DOJ that Joe Biden runs, and appointed then a special counsel of that DOJ investigation team that had the sweetheart deal with Hunter Biden. It's not solely politics. Well, I guess if you look at it, everything is solely politics. But it's a matter of, look, this clearly looks like corruption. It smells like corruption. It looks like corruption. Hey, it's probably corruption at some level. To then say, well, it's definitely not corruption because you can't track it specifically back to Joe Biden in the fact that Hunter Biden said, hey, Dad, here is $40 million from the Saudis. And then Joe Biden says, thanks. Got the $40 million from the Saudis. I will change this policy here. Yeah, you're never going to find that. They may be corrupt, but they're not stupid. But the bottom line is Hunter Biden has been caught in so many different lies, scandals, emails where he's saying, this is the account that my dad used to pay everything out of, and I've funded this account for the last 10 years. Saying stuff like that is outside of the scope of politics and just flat out corrupt. And so to think that the American people shouldn't need to know about that, again, a weird thing from Congressman Ro Khanna, who there's so many things that he has worked across the aisle for that makes me think he's not a crazy person. And then he goes and says stuff like this. But anyways, I want to get to this because I think this is interesting and funny and should be talked about. The USDA, Biden's USDA or health czar, says the USDA might be coming out with new guidelines per Americans and their alcohol consumption. Now, right now, the USDA guidelines is what? 1 drink a day for women, 2 drinks a day for men, which in my mind is just flat out bigotry. Men and women are exactly the same, physically and otherwise. So women should be able to drink the same amount as men every day because they're the same. The reverse end of that joke is, does that mean transgender men, so, okay, wait, women becoming men now have to abide by the 2-drink policy or get to abide by the 2-drink policy? So what if they're gender fluid? What if they walk into the bar and they're kind of thinking in their head, well, I want to abide by the USDA guidelines and the CDC guidelines, so maybe I'll just pretend, maybe I'll be a man for the next, I don't know, hour or 2. I'll get to have 2 drinks or 4 and say, rather than quadrupling my alcohol intake that is recommended, I will only have doubled it, which makes me feel like a better person. I wonder if that's how you handle that, if you're one of them folks. Anyways, the proposed change from the Biden health czar is that his actual title? Is this from the New York Post? Well, if it loads. Americans soon could be advised to limit themselves to just 2 drinks a week. Not even 2 a day for men, 1 for women. 2 drinks a week, a top health official warned on Thursday. President Biden's alcohol czar. Okay, so it's not even a health czar. There's an alcohol czar? Like just a person that's their one thing? Okay. President Biden's alcohol czar, George Koob, told the Daily Mail that the USDA could revise its alcohol recommendations to match Canada's guidelines. In January, Canada began urging residents to limit their alcohol consumption to 2 drinks per week. Since the 1990s, the U.S. has recommended women limit themselves to 1 drink per day and 2 drinks for men per day. However, the guidance is up for review in 2025. Cope says there are health benefits. I think people will start to reevaluate where they're at in the big experiments with alcohol, guidance. Now, he's right. Canada, the neighbors to the north, America's hat, limited or suggested to the citizens not 2 drinks a day for men, 1 drink for women, 2 drinks a week for anybody. Now, I want you to watch this clip from one of our maple syrup loving friends who resides in America's hat, and watch how he feels about it. And then I'd like to get to the big elephant in the room that should be talked about and has to be talked about when it comes to single-payer healthcare. Watch this.
What did you buy today?
I bought 6 Busch Light, 6 Bud Light, and I love them, tall boys.
Tall boys? How much would you drink a day?
Well, what day? Regular day, I don't know, maybe a couple of beers, depends. Weekends, maybe, 5 beer. 2 drinks a week.
What do you think of that?
Well, that's just not feasible, not in this country. Well, come on, man, 2 drinks a week, what's that going to do for you? I mean, that doesn't even get you through a day. A reasonable amount, if you're at home, you should be able to have like 4 beer. That's just 2 more. I mean, I'll have 6. But 4 is a fair number. But there shouldn't even be guidelines anyway. Why are you going to tell me how much I can drink at home?
Well, I guess the idea is, would you be concerned that you're at a higher health risk if you're drinking too much?
No. The main point here is, why are they telling me what I can drink at home? What, can I have 2 liters of pop? Can I have 2 liters of pop? Well, what's more healthy, 4 beers or 2 liters of Coca-Cola? Do the math.
So I'm guessing that this information about the new guidelines isn't going to change your life.
It's heartbreaking, and I can't even believe it. Rock and roll! Oh, wait a minute. You can't handle the tooth.
All right, I don't know why I included that last part in there, but I thought that was a great perspective from a moose-loving Canadian, saying, "Why is the government telling me what I can do?" Now, here is the thing: in Canada, where they have single-payer healthcare for all, and everyone has healthcare, and it's just fantastic and great. they can tell you what you can or cannot do. The government can effectively tell you what you can or cannot do. I have been saying this since I started arguing against single-payer healthcare. People talk about it being ineffective. They talk about it being inefficient. They talk about it not developing any new medications to help ailing people because there's no financial incentive anymore. But I think the biggest thing is that the government now, the government and people who are paying for other people's healthcare will start to care a lot about what other people do. What I mean by that is, if I'm having to foot the bill for your healthcare specifically and everybody, I am going to be a tiny tyrant. I will be slapping Big Macs out of people's hands, taking cigarettes, throwing them on the ground. You don't get to do things that I don't do that are going to cost me money. Now, again, I hate that. I hate the fact that that's the case. But in a single-payer healthcare system, if I'm paying for your medical bills, you do not get to do whatever you want. You don't get to do things like smoke cigarettes, probably drink, probably eat fast food. You don't get to go skydiving. You don't get to go on dangerous adventures. If we all have to pay for each other, and maybe you think that's a good idea, maybe you think, well, communism and everyone looking out for their own. The downside of that is I will be leading the charge to ensure that people are as healthy as they possibly could be. I will campaign for mandatory exercise every day. Everybody's got these Apple Watches on. Once I have to start paying for your healthcare, I will make you run miles every day. I do. Why would I not make you? If we all have to foot the bill for each other, I will be leading the charge on making sure people have to live healthy lifestyles until it goes away, until the state-mandated single-payer healthcare nonsense goes away. And again, I know that sounds like anti-conservative, anti-libertarian, anti-freedom. But if you confiscate the freedom that I have by forcing me to pay specifically for everybody else, I'm gonna try and enforce some of my own rules there to make sure that I don't have to pay for people who are 300 plus pounds who take horrible care of themselves. They're gonna run up the tab, and if it's my tab, nah, sorry. And so this guy in Canada complaining about it, saying that what right does the government have to tell me how much I can drink at night? I agree with you, dude. If you want to drink yourself to death, fine. But if I have to pay for the treatment of your liver cirrhosis, sorry, dude, can't. And that's the problem they have in Canada. I think it's a huge missed argument that freedom-loving conservative people are not making in the healthcare space. When you talk about healthcare for all, Medicare for all, and all that crap, everybody talks about how inefficient it is, how it just won't work, how it's not functional, and there's no incentives for medical companies to create better medicine. When I think a huge component of it is, look, if the government and all of us have to pay for your healthcare, we will not let you do certain things. I hate that. I hate that as a policy, but that's just the reality. If you're doing something that's going to affect my wallet, I'm going to not allow you to do that. I don't know. I'm wondering how that's received in the comment section. Catherine says we'd have a lot less freedom. Yeah. Wow, some longer ones, so I'm not sure. Oh, Lisa says not Bud Light. Yeah, this was filmed in January. Before that, I would imagine this particular Canadian is not buying Bud Light anymore. Let's see. Anything else in there? Yeah, somebody saying it's Catch-22. Anyways, maybe we'll get to the SpaceX thing tomorrow because that'll do it for us today. I gotta get to the thing. Oh, so I don't really want to belabor on this topic. We weren't here on Thursday or Friday. I knew I wasn't going to be able to be here Friday. I was at Turning Point doing a roundtable with Charlie Kirk and Alex Clark because good fun, a lot of fun. We'll have some clips of that on my social media pages, which if you want to follow me, just type in Jobob. Pretty much anywhere you'll be able to find me. Twitter, Getter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all of those. You can find me pretty much anywhere, but yeah, those clips will be up there. But Thursday was fascinating, and I don't want to necessarily go into a long thing about this, but I took in not the debate, but a lot of the media coverage from the debate and what the president posted, which was just freaking awful. And I woke up Thursday morning and just didn't have the heart to get out here and talk about that stupid, idiotic gathering of so-called small government conservatives and the reaction to it. I don't know, so depressing and awful. Maybe I'll have regrouped and we'll talk about the debate a week later, which, is not great in the terms of the news cycle. But holy cow, I was so discouraged on Thursday of how bad that thing was, and the commentary around it, and the way the president reacted to it. I'm talking about Biden. Just couldn't do it. So that's where we were on Thursday. And Friday, we were going to take the day off because we were going to Phoenix anyway. But anyways, that'll do it for us today. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Maybe we'll talk about the debate again days later, having had time to digest it. But that'll do it for us today. See you tomorrow, same time, same place. God bless America.